Next up on the bench, a Swan linear. So I was kind of checking it out a little bit. We've got that part there. That's part of the high voltage input. We've got a high voltage wire that's been cut. We've got a missing end cap here for one of the two fuses. We've got something I don't like right there. That's pulled out of the grommet. So, not liking what I'm seeing so far. I was hoping for a repair. This looks like it might be another rebuild. So stay tuned. We're going to get the tins off of it and see what the hell we got to work with. Psychotech Labs signing off. Alright. Doesn't look too bad on the top. It's a little dirty. Gonna need to be cleaned up. The diodes look like they've been replaced. The capacitors, I'm gonna say, have been replaced. Those are some damn big expensive caps. I shined a light down through there and I didn't see where any of them are bulging or oozing or anything, so I think we're going to leave it alone. Just do the repair on the high voltage circuit as far as the wire, and then that there we're going to have to fix so it's not pulling out past the grommet. I'm using my Henry 1K now on my station, so that's my tube tester. So I don't really have a way to test these tubes, but they don't look smoked or anything. Basically, we're going to neutralize the high voltage stage, and we'll go ahead and run get everything hooked up. We'll run the variac and power these tubes up and see what the heck. So that's what's next on the bench. Stay tuned for more Psychotech Labs. Another exciting linear episode coming up. The Swan Project. Catch me later. Alright, finally we got our high voltage plugs. So we got them out, one in the power deck and I'm at one in the RF deck somehow, somewhere. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead, and that's a no-brainer. We got an area right there, so we can drill a big old hole and mount this big old socket and get that done. This here, we're going to have to pop the bottom off and check it out, see how much room we got. So we want to make it so that it unplugs from here, but we don't want it to unplug from this. That way you can't have this probe in right here, or I mean this plug-in right here. We don't want that to actually be hot to where, you know, somebody could touch it, or if it pulls out, there'd be an issue. So you ought to think about things like that. High voltage is not a toy. It's not a game you want to play. So that's what we're going to do now. Go through and measure stuff and see about boring a hole. Catch me later. Okay. Out right there is where the high voltage is supposed to go in. And it's wired through the bottom here, and then basically it comes around to this point right there. So that's not enough room for us to mount this. I don't really like the way this is done up, so we're going to redo it. We are going to drill our hole back here, and we're going to have the high voltage plug come out here, and we're going to run a wire down, around, and over to right there. So we'll install to that point there. That's our plan. Yep. We're going to get her done. It's got some brand new high voltage wire we're going to be using. So let's get to drilling. Okay, it's drilled and mounted. We haven't soldered the wire on. Well, we're going to be putting a little eyelet thing on there. So you didn't want this to be able to pull out of here on this one, because if this was plugged into the power deck and it was turned on, this would have high voltage in it. We didn't want that. So this is going to get permanently glued into here. This other end, now that's going to be removable. We're going to mount another one of these here in the power deck, right in there, and that one you'll be able to unplug, so that way you don't have an end that's hot. So that's where we're at so far. One hole drilled, and yeah, so now we got to do that to this. We're also missing a top here. Now we went ahead and bought a bunch of brand new fuse holders, so I'm hoping I can just use the top. If not, I'll have to replace that fuse holder. Hopefully I can just use the top. We're going to find out here pretty soon. Alrighty, we'll be back. Okay, so the hole's been drilled, and we mounted this plug. Now this plug we're not gluing. We want that to be able to come out. All the high voltage is going to be in here. Nothing will be there. So all we got left to do is take that wire right there. It goes down and then into this plug here. This umbilical cord, I mean. So we gotta cut that so it's no longer going through here. And then we just run it up to here, and we're done with that part. Still got to tackle the fuse thing. I don't know if that end cap's the same or not. I think we're going to bag it for today. I'm not sure what time it is, but I think it's getting late. So we'll finish the Swan project up a little bit more tomorrow. We'll do some more work to it. See how far we got. Catch me later. Psychotech Labs signing off for now. Okay, the power supply is done. So to recap, those caps definitely look like they've been replaced with some really expensive caps. This tape is soft and pliable, so that hasn't been on there for years. We have wired it for 120 volts. We put in the new plug for the high voltage, and we had to put on a 120 volt plug. So diodes have been replaced, caps look like they've been replaced. I've gone through the wiring and stuff. Everything looks good. I mean, yeah, I can go OCD over lots of things I wouldn't mind doing, but just not enough room in that power supply to really mess around. So we're calling it good. Catch me later. Okay, so I'll finish up the RF deck. So we don't need this wire anymore. Originally it went from the input here, and then it fed around and went to this point right here. So we don't need that no more. We're going to be putting in all new wire and routing it different. So let's flip this thing over and get her done. Okay, high voltage is done. Here's the input. It's the new high voltage plug. Route the wires down around to there. And that's pretty much it. We'll be putting this on the Variac tomorrow and seeing what it does. So, wish us luck. Psychotech Labs, we're signing off for today. We'll put this on the Variac tomorrow. Catch me later. Okay, so yesterday we run the Variac over there and we slowly run it all the way up to 120 volts. The fans were coming on, but the tubes didn't light up. We also didn't get any high voltage. That means this transformer is not getting energized. Two power relays. There's your high voltage. That switches it from CW to SSB, which is actually high and low power. It ups the voltage. Okay. This power relay here, it's supposed to be a mercury relay. Whoa. Don't like playing with mercury, but looks like we got to, eh? So anyway, at about 80 volts, this should have probably keyed up. By 100, it should have definitely keyed up, and by 120, that relay should have triggered sending voltage to the transformer. Okay. I didn't see where that relay was triggering. So today, we want to work with the on-off. So we have a switch here that turns it on and off and changes the voltage. Alright, we want to get in here and work on this safely. So we're going to take the high voltage relay right here. This transfers the voltage between two different windings on the output side of the transformer. So it changes the voltage basically on the high voltage circuit. We are going to unhook the toggle side of that relay. That's the output, and we're going to unhook that. That way there won't be any voltage going to the capacitors or the diode bank. We'll be able to safely get in here and test the 110 volts and trace it all through the circuit, figure out what's going on. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to neuter the high voltage. First we're going to make sure it's shorted out. So we're going to short the caps. I don't think they're charged, but let's make sure, because one fuck up and you're dead. So let's get on that, and we'll be back. Okay, we've cut the high voltage wire going to the high voltage relay. We're going to plug in the Variac. The linear is turned on. Our meter is set for 200 volts. We should be seeing like 120. Variac is on. We got voltage going through that stupid relay. I'm hearing it click on. One of them just did. That high voltage relay is working. Okay. 120 volts there. Yep. Well, next we have to test it right up in here. So rather than bore everybody with a bunch of boring, monotonous testing, we're going to go ahead and pause this and rig up our meter to test for voltage up there going into the transformer, coming out of that little relay. So stay tuned, we'll get back once we make a few more tests. Well, that relay is juicing up the transformer. I've got my, once the field coil in that relay hits enough voltage, it is triggering that relay, and I am getting 120 volts right up to that point. I should be going in directly into the transformer. Tubes still aren't lighting, so gonna have to make some more tests at a couple more points. But yeah, I'd rather see this relay bad than the transformer. So far it's not doing nothing. So I got to make sure I'm actually getting voltage into the transformer. So yeah, I got it at that point. I got no room to work in here, which makes it screwed. I don't see any way for this back to come off, which would just make it great. If that back could come off, they can get in there and mess around and have a lot of fun. Alright, catch me later. Okay, the Swan Mark2, it's all done. We're just running 2 watts swinging 12 into it. And audio. Just under 200 watts. That's what it should do with that minimal amount in it. And that's on low power. Audio. Okay, that's high power, over 200 watts. So imagine if you actually drove it with more power, you would get a lot of watt. Okay, that concludes the Swan Mark2 project. It's all done. You'll be getting a hold of the guy that owns this and let him know the great news. We've got to finish putting all the screws back in it. Other than that, we are done. Thanks everyone for watching my YouTube channel. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode of Psychotech Labs. Yeah.